Hartmann rounding out the top 6 rows, with Maximilian Saar, Nick Noel Müller, Andrei Petropoulos, Maxim Lieder, Vivian Michel Heid, Anna-Sophie Tham, and Lukas Wawrzyniak. I'll try and get that surname right. Wawrzyniak rounding out the 19 strong. So it will be 14 minutes plus an additional lap here at this very, very interesting and undulating circuit here at Kerpen. Another new circuit for me personally. So again, we will have a rolling start formation. And after this one, I will have 3 more races to go before the lunch break, which looks to be slightly delayed. Just keeping an eye on the timings at the moment. So we're running about close to 15 minutes behind schedule here at Kerpen. Obviously with the attrition that we've had throughout the morning. So it is Bock, Henson, Trussheim, Ponkratz, Tim Mikametz, Krupper, Thompson, Horstmann, Heinen and Bossert. That is the top 10. 19 drivers ready to get going yet again here in Kerpen. They filter their way through the Schumacher chicane, round the final corner at the left-hander. They will have to watch the tram lines. It will be an automatic 3-second penalty. The Rotax engines roar into life. We go racing. First time. And there's contact already. One's man at the back of another and clattered into another cart. And that's 3 carts involved. So just trying to keep an eye on who that was. But there is one driver that is not taking... That's double waved yellows. Double waved yellows at turn 1. The main thing is that the driver has walked away. That's the biggest sigh of relief I could actually have. So, drivers now coming through into the left-hander that brings them onto the Schumacher chicane, as it's definitely game on between the 3:13 of Fabian Bock and Paul Trussheim in the 3:03. Just behind them, I think that's Linus Henson rounding out the top 3 positions. And then in the 333 just behind is Tim Mikametz. So Metz up the inside of Henson now into turn 2. Does he make the move stick? Not quite, but someone goes very wide. No, that's the 303 of Paul Trussheim. Goes very wide and nearly off into the gravel, off of turn 2. So the rest of the field swallows up the 303, who drops all the way down to, I think, possibly at least 8th position. Or maybe even make that towards the back part of the field. And that's Max Bosse that will not be taking any further part in this race. The 343 having walked away from the incident. The cart stricken on the outside of turn number 1. And at the minute, the 313 of Fabian Bock continues to lead. Linus Henson now in 2nd place. In P3, it's Tim Mikametz. Paul Trussheim has not yet crossed the line and is outside of the top 10. Down into P13. As I think Tim Mikametz tried to go up the inside of Henson and got the move done on turn 2 for 2nd place. So already, looks like I think it was Nick Noel Müller and Maximilian Saar that were involved in that 3-way accident that Max Buzzer, I think, was an unwilling participant in, as it went 3 abreast going into turn 1. 11 minutes and 45 seconds, plus an additional lap left to go, as Linus Henson steals himself and gets ready to put the fight to Tim Mikametz in the 333, who's got very close to the back bumper of Fabian Bock going through the final corner and nearly loses out 2nd position to Linus Henson. But luckily enough, closes the door off quickly as Niklas Krins is now up into P7. Maximilian Krupper gets past the 341 for 6th position. Jan Heinen and Julia Poinkratz now round out the top 5 positions. Both Anna-Sophia Tham and Vivian Michel Heid in the 323 and the 344 up to P13 and P14 respectively. Lukas Thompson and Maxim Lieder now round out the top 10 positions. But Fabian Bock is now really under pressure. It's a 4-way scrap as Jan Heinen's joined it. So Fabian Bock, Tim Mikametz, And Jan Heinen now has got past Linus Henson for P3. And with this happening, Julia Ponkratz and Maximilian Krupper will quickly be with them. Ponkratz just ahead of Krupper, going across the start-finish line. Tim Mika-Metz, I think, was looking up the inside of Fabian Bock for P1, but couldn't quite make it stick. There's a little bit of standing water, as I've just seen some water kicked up by Linus Henson through the exit of turn 2 on the exit curbing. But it is still very much game on. 10 minutes and 15 seconds plus an additional lap to go. Fabian Bock continues to hold on to the lead at the moment and has Tim Mika-Metz, Jan Heinen and Linus Henson, as Heinen swarming all over the back of Tim Mika-Metz there for second position. It's all about getting the right purchase and the traction coming out of the final corner, which the top 6 all managed to do, not a problem at all. As Niklas Krens in the 341, looking a little bit lonely in 7th, ahead of Lucas Thompson, and then there's a bit of a swarm behind that. Maxim Lieder, Lucas Horstmann, Andrei Petropoulos, Lucas Bajinak now up into P11, as Lucas Horstmann gets past Maxim Lieder for P9. But the gap between the top 4 last time around was just under 0.6 of a second between Bock, Mika-Metz, Heinen and Henson. And it is nearly side by side, as it looks like Heinen went up the inside of Tim Mika-Metz through the left-hander into the approach on the Schumacher chicane. So nice work there by the 312. So we got just over 9 minutes remaining, and now Heinen is gunning for Fabian Bock and goes towards the inside through the exit of turn 1, through into turn 2, through to the hairpin, goes wide. Bock responds, Tim Mika-Metz also goes through. So Heinen gets the lead and drops back to 3rd after the corner itself. So it's still plenty of time for multiple drivers to have an opportunity to try and go and get the lead back off of Fabian Bock, who has quite literally been riding the bull and grabbing both horns at the same time. So Bock continues to lead with Tim Mika-Metz right on the back bumper and tries to send it up the inside again on turn number 2. So Bock round to the outside. Oh, he gets nerfed a little bit wide there by Tim Mika-Metz. It was the slightest of clashes, if I'm completely honest. However, that's now compromised Fabian Bock, who I think now, by my reckoning, has dropped down to P3 as a result of that slightest of altercations. So Tim Mika-Metz now takes the lead from Fabian Bock. So that means it looks like Linus Henson now up into P2, which is the case. And as a result of that, Jan Heinen is now sitting in 4th place. Tries to go up the inside of Fabian Bock for position. And it's still getting very dicey out there. Sometimes it's about trying to see if you can go for it, and some drivers will, as Jan Heinen did there on Fabian Bock, going up the inside of turn 2. But Heinen had to slot back into 4th position. But in the meantime, Julia Ponkratz is now very much with them, as will be Maximilian Krupper very, very shortly. So the top 6 will be battling away for the victory as we hit the half-time distance. Well, I've just seen that on the back bumper of Maximilian Krupper, that's the 341 of Niklas Krens. So Tim Mika-Metz leads from Linus Henson, Fabian Bock, Jan Heinen, Julia Ponkratz, Maximilian Krupper, and also Niklas Krens. Rounding out the top 10 is Lucas Horstmann, Lucas Thompson. Oh no, someone's off into the barriers off of turn 2. That was a hard hit here, there. Who is that? I'm going to... Now that's not Fabian Bock, is it? That could very well be the case. Fabian Bock, I believe, has just hit the barriers, and I'm not too sure what the problem was there, but he just went straight on at a rate of knots. And there is a little bit of spitting on the commentary box. There is a little bit of rain starting to show, but it's not enough this time to cause any problems, I think. And it is Fabian Bock. That is Fabian Bock that is not having any further participation in this race. And I've just seen the 301 of Petropoulos go very, very wide onto the dirt coming out of the left-hander. And there's also been, now this is causing problems. The track is getting slippier now. The rain is starting to intensify. With 5 minutes and 35 to go, it's now to see who can keep it planted, who is going to keep it on the asphalt as best they can, not make any mistakes. It is not about it's not just about where you are going to finish. It is about if you are going to survive to the end of this race, especially with the wet weather conditions. Slippery surface flags being shown all circuit. So the drivers now have a test of resolve, strength, character, but also precision, as now Linus Henson is sensing that he might have an opportunity on the inside of Tim Mika-Metz, but has a loss of traction coming out of the final corner. But on this occasion through turn 2, Tim Mika-Metz just clatters over the curbs, allows Linus Henson, Niklas Krenz, who's now up into P3, and Fabian Bock, I think, might have just retired after that hefty hit frontwards into the wall, the tyre barrier, off of turn number 2. But according to the timing sheets, I think he might still be circulating. And it has changed again, because now the driver leading is Niklas Krenz. Niklas Krenz leads. Linus Henson in second place. Tim Mika-Metz in third. Fourth, that is... No, that's Jan Heinen. I think that's Jan Heinen who's now in second. Tim Mika-Metz in as Heinen goes up the inside of Krenz to take the lead. Round turn 2. Krenz on the switchback. Pair need to go side by side. And as Krenz tries to go for the inside of turn number 3, now goes through turn 5 very nicely and retakes the lead. So it's getting a bit slippery out there, and you can, for those watching on the stream at home, you can just see how much the drivers are starting to fight the karts, because even with these slick tyres, as Jan Heinen's gone up the inside of Niklas Krenz on the approach towards the final part of the circuit, and just slungshot past Niklas Krenz on the approach towards the Schumacher chicane. Now into turn 1, it is not just 4 karts that could be battling for the victory. It could be 7 very, very shortly, as Tim Mika-Metz goes side by side with Niklas Krenz. Krenz reasserts himself, and here comes Linus Henson, trying to get past Tim Mika-Metz, who shuts the door firmly in the direction of the 334. Julia Ponkratz now has got a ringside seat, as has Maximilian Cooper and Lucas Thompson. It is about being clean and precise, and there's no, at this particular point in the race, with 2 minutes and 39 plus an additional lap to go, it's all about who is going to just basically keep it pointed in the right direction, not make any mistakes, not hit the power too early, not brake too hard or outbrake themselves. And that person looks to be Jan Heinen in the 312, who's got a gap of just over 0.8 of a second, as Tim Mika-Metz, I think, has just gone up the inside of Niklas Krenz once again for P2. Makes the move through turn 3, completed, as Linus Henson now is with them. Julia Ponkratz rounding out the top 5 ahead of Maximilian Cooper. Lucas Thompson, Lucas Wozniak rounds out the top 8, having started from pretty much the back part of the field. Lucas Horstmann and Lucas Hartmann round out the top 10. Paul Trussheim is in 11th ahead of Anna-Sophia Tham, with Vivian Michel Haidt rounding out the top 13. Petropoulos now down into 14th position ahead of Maximilian Saar. Fabian Bock still circulating though in 16th, with Nick Noel Müller rounding out the top 17 positions, with Maximilian and Max Boss rounding out the 2 that have retired, as it is an absolute squabble. Linus Henson absolutely runs wide. Coming out of the exit of turn 2, that drops him down out of the top 5 positions. That puts him, I think, P8 or P9 by my reckoning. So with the rain having sort of thrown a curveball at the field, it's tripped a few up, but it hasn't caught out Jan Heinen, who is still leading. Tim Mika-Metz in second, Niklas Krenz, and now Julia Ponkratz now up into P4 ahead of Maximilian Krupper in the 3:21. So Pankratz doing an absolutely fantastic job. And now has an opportunity. We go on to the last 45 seconds, plus an additional lap of this race. With the weather definitely deciding, well, if you want good racing, I'm going to spice it up a little bit. So here's a little rainfall for you. And that's definitely been the case, as there's a definite sideways moment through what looked to be turn 5. And I think that might have been Linus Henson going sideways in 9th position. So it's still very much game on. We've got about 14 seconds. So it looks like Jan Heinen will cross the line very, very shortly with 7 seconds on the clock remaining. Now we go on to the penultimate lap of this race. So the top 5, it's Jan Heinen from Tim Mikametz, Niklas Krens, who is actually being caught by Julia Pankratz in the 3:07, and also the 3:21 of Maximilian Krupper. Lukas Thompson, Lukas Warzinak, Lukas Horstmann, Linus Henson, Lukas Hartmann round out the top 10 positions as the time has now expired on the counter. As Jan Heinen comes in to the left-hander, fully committed, fully planted, as was Tim Mikametz. So Tim Mikametz, I think, has definitely said, now, I've got one lap, I could go for it. We'll see what happens very shortly, because they head down towards turn 2 for the final time. Heinen puts the brakes on neatly. Right rear wheel goes up into the air, as it does with Niklas Krens, and Linus Henson again. Definitely in the trenches, and has got just behind Lukas Horstmann in the 3:18, amongst others. So very much a case in point that when others started to struggle, Jan Heinen definitely has done the business here in what's been a changeable weather condition race through the Schumacher chicane for the final time. Around the final corner, it's not going to be enough for Tim Mikametz, because Jan Heinen takes the win. And that was by just under 0.4 of a second at the flag. Niklas Krens holds on to 3rd after Julia Pankratz tried chasing the 3:41 down for P3. Julia finished ahead of Maximilian Krupper in the 3:21. Lukas Thompson rounds out the top 6 in the 3:32, ahead of Linus Henson in P7. Lukas Warzinak in 8th. Lukas Horstmann and Lukas Hartmann rounding out the top 10 positions, all separated by just under 9.8 seconds at the end of that race, with Paul Trussheim, Fabian Bock recovering to P12, ahead of Anna Sofia Thum in the 3:23. Andre Petropoulos went dirt tracking a bit earlier and ended up 14th as a result. Maximilian Saar in 15th, ahead of Vivienne Michel Reit, and Nick Noel Müller rounding out the 17 that completed the race, with Maxim Lieder ending his race on lap number 7, with Max Bosse not making it past the exit of turn number 1. So we have the penultimate race of the season for DD2 and DD2 Masters, and your grid is as follows. On pole position is the 405 of Florian Breitenbach, with Long Seifried in the 439 alongside. Jan Zemer in the 499 and Karl Lukaszewski in the 406. That rounds out row number 2. Fabio Citignola and Thomas Schumacher round out the top 3 rows, with Maximilian Dombos and Andreas Schindler in 7th and 8th, with Andreas starting from pole in the DD2 Masters classification. Oliver Breitenbach and Nico Gnad round out the top 10, ahead of Marc Bartels, Bennett Müller, Sascha Frankenbusch, Silvio Piparato, Leonard Posse, Denny Schallau, Philipp Wolfken, David Haas, Jonas Wolscheid, Stefan Grabo, Kai Horne, Jan Müller, Thomas Donsol, Martin Berger and Florian Bopp. Again, this will be another 14-minute race plus an additional lap. So we have, after this one, 2 more races to go, and we'll get my good co-commentator for today, Max Heiss, giving us some understanding for our German viewers on the live stream, but also for those at the track here in Kaupen. So they're getting the formation pretty much underway here. So we will have 14 minutes plus an additional lap. So they've really got to get into, it's going to be down to Florian Breitenbach. Oh, that was probably not what Long Seifried wanted just then. So Breitenbach was weaving and accidentally hit the right front wheel of Long Seifried's kart just then. So the 2 at the front, well, Breitenbach is trying to get things going, as Seifried just helping him to back up. I'm not too sure this is going to be a start. Looks like the timer has started ticking away. So looks like things have gotten going in the first of 2 DD2 and DD2 Masters races here at Kaupen. And it looks like that Florian Breitenbach has got an initial advantage over Long Seifried. And just behind them, I think, now, that looks to be that with the pace they're running at, that was classed as a full start. So, again, another race where we just have to wait for them. Now, it's just going to be a case of now Breitenbach should be, along with Seifried, controlling the rolling start formation. They've got to start doing it pretty much now. So, looks like to be the case. So, Breitenbach will have to be wary of where Seifried is, who now starts to pull alongside. So, very, very good thought process from Long Seifried. He wants to get the jump on the pole sitter in this race going into turn 1, but he will be on the outside line. Now the 25 strong grid are pretty much line as CERN. The 125cc Rotax Max Evo engines go into the high rev ranges, as it's getting a bit elbows out going into turn 1 already, as they go into turn 2 for the first time. 2, 3, maybe even nigh on 4. Well, there's an absolute gaggle of karts at the back part of the field, and one of them was Florian Bopp, who I think has made up a couple of positions already. Seifried, right, still on the back bumper of Florian Breitenbach, for what is effectively the lead of this race, as they come through down the back straight into the quick left-hander, and Seifried has got it absolutely planted through that corner. So Florian Breitenbach instantly having to quickly defend, as everyone else is trying to do their best to try and get past, as Seifried trying to wrestle the kart whilst trying to get past Florian Breitenbach for the lead. Goes to the outside run of the outside line through turn 2. Can't get the switch back there. The 439 looks to be with RS Competition. But he's still on the back bumper. Jan Zemer Lukaszewski is in P4 ahead of Donbos in the 4:14. Leading the way in terms of DD2 Masters, it is Andreas Schindler in the 5:15 as Lawrence Seyfried still trying to keep himself within striking range of Florian Breitenbach for the lead. We've had Florian Bopp jump up from P25 to P23. Martin Berger up to P24 as they come across the line. As Lukaszewski has lost out P4 to Donbos as Seyfried gets the defensive door thrown in his general direction by Florian Breitenbach. Jan Zemer rounds out the top three ahead of Donbos. Lukaszewski, Schumacher in 6th place ahead of Oliver Breitenbach, Schindler, Sitignola and Bartels. That's the top 10 overall. But still, Lawrence Seyfried still trying to get past Florian Breitenbach and might be just doing the sort of the dummy, as in, I'm going to keep pushing until I know I can get him. But a little bit further back, looks like Lukaszewski was running the back bumper of Zemer for P4 going through turn 1. As Florian Breitenbach is trying to put on a defensive show pretty much all the way through the race. As Lawrence Seyfried does not have to worry about anyone battling anyone behind him to try and battle their way into the top 2 positions. But it looks like Donbos, I think, might have just broken away ever so slightly. As the flat left welcomes both Florian Breitenbach and Lawrence Seyfried. As Breitenbach looked to be a bit unsettled going through the Schumacher chicane. But Seyfried just keeping himself around about a cart length and a half behind Florian Breitenbach. As Thomas Schumacher has got past Karl Lukaszewski, as that is the 4:22 of Oliver Breitenbach. I think might have lost out of the top 5 positions. So top 5 in each respective class is Florian Breitenbach ahead of Lawrence Seyfried in the 4:39. Maximilian Donbos, Jan Zemer and Oliver Breitenbach round out the top 5 as it stood the last time around. DD2 Masters, Andreas Schindler up into P8 overall. Next up is Sascha Frankenbusch in P14. Silvio Pipperato in 17th position rounds out the top 3 in that class, with Thomas Donzol and Martin Berger rounding out the 25 strong in 24th and 25th respectively, as there has been a little bit of a coming together. And that looks to be Jan Müller and maybe Kai Honner involved there, but it was definitely Jan Müller that was definitely involved. So that would have been into turn number 2. And the gap between Florian Breitenbach and Lawrence Seyfried was just 0.2 of a second exactly last time around. But in the meantime, Maximilian Donbos has been catching them. And he's actually put in the fastest lap of the race a couple of laps ago. 46.189. He just put in a 46.268. And he's running pretty equidistant with the pace of the 2 at the front. So Florian Breitenbach just put in a 46.271. Lawrence Seyfried a 46.241. Maximilian Donbos a 46.251. So it is literally 31 thousandths of a second as Lawrence Seyfried looks to strike. He looked to strike through one of the sweeping right-handers on the other side of the circuit, but he hasn't made it through. Florian Breitenbach has kept the 4:39 from Irish competition at bay from lights out. They started on the front row together. They come around the final corner, 8 minutes and 35, plus an additional lap still to go here. And Seyfried really looking menacing right now. He's gone to the outside once again of Florian Breitenbach, and he goes side by side, the pair are side by side through turn 3. And Seyfried does the sensible thing as there's a back marker just letting them pass up in front to let them go and have their own interpersonal battle. As we've got yellow flags being waved at turn 1, as we've got someone off and into the tyre walls. Now that I did not quite see out of my line of sight, so it's going to be slowing down, no overtaking. So the battle has to sort of stop there, but it will be dampened for just a moment. And that looks to be, right, so we've had Jan Müller out of the race. So whether that was Martin Berger that has gone into the tyre barriers, not too sure, because the crew on site are trying to remove the kart from the tyre barriers on the exit of turn 1, as Long Seifried still hustling away behind Florian Breitenbach. So the main thing is that the drivers walked away from that incident. As Seifried really getting feisty behind Florian Breitenbach. There's a little bit of a bump on the inside apex, and I just saw the briefest amount of air underneath the four wheels of Florian Breitenbach as Seifried now goes for the lead. He goes for it round. He's gone round the outside of him on turn 3. That's a great move, because Breitenbach went a bit, I think, went to go towards the outside line into turn 2. Seifried went, right, I'm going to try and do what I can. And what he did was he went to the outside run on Breitenbach, who went for the tight apex, got the switchback nailed perfectly, and swung it around the outside of the 405. But now Breitenbach is no longer the hunter. It's no longer the hunted. He is the hunter. He is now hunting down Laurent Seifried in the 439 from RS Competition. And now tries to return the favour on the very same corner. But Seifried capitalises and goes nearly side by side between turns 2 exit and turn 3. And Florian Breitenbach retains the lead after making that initial late brake manoeuvre up the inside of the 439 on that last lap. And it looks as if it is Fabio Cittignola that has been the one that's ended up in the barriers off of the exit of turn number 1. As Seifried still trying to keep going and keep on the back bumper of Breitenbach. But whilst they've been battling, Maximilian Dombos has been closing and was quicker than Seifried, but was a tenth off of Breitenbach. So Breitenbach has firmly got some pace under the 405's chassis. So at the minute, the running order is as follows. Florian Breitenbach leads, ahead of Laurent Seifried, Maximilian Dombos. Oliver Breitenbach now up into P4, ahead of Jan Seymour in the 499. Thomas Schumacher is in P6, ahead of Karl Lukaszewski in the 406, with Bennett Müller and Mark Bartels and Andreas Schindler, who is leading in DD2 Masters at the moment. Round out the top 10. Leonard Posse, Jonas Wolscheid, Nico Gnad, Sascha Frankenbusch, Silvio Pipahato, Kai Honne, Dennis Schalow, Philipp Wolfken, Stefan Grabau, David Haas, Florian Bopp, Thomas Donsel and Martin Berger are still circulating. So 23 of the 25 drivers that started this race nearly 10 minutes ago are still circulating, as the gap between the two leaders last time around was just over 0.2 of a second. But this time, it looks like we have a big change. And it's not Florian Breitenbach in the lead, because somewhere around the other part of the circuit, looks as if Laurent Seifried and Maximilian Dombos, as blue flags are being waved at turn 2. Very good work by the marshalling team here at the circuit. So Laurent Seifried leads ahead of Maximilian Dombos in the 414. Then it is the brothers Breitenbach, with Florian ahead of Oliver in P3 and P4 respectively, with Seymour rounding out the top 5. But it's not over yet. The three at the front of this race have definitely got a lot to say, as the 575 of Thomas Donsel lets the rest of the field pass as the leaders go through towards the approach onto turn number 2. So Seifried, and I've just seen that the 5.5 8 of Martin Berger has just had to let back marker as a back marker has to let people through. The battle of the front of the field is between Seyfried, Dombos, and also Breitenbach. Sorry, Maximilian Dornbos, I think that Dombos. I was correct there. So it's going to be very interesting as the top 3 were separated by just under 2.5 tenths of a second last time around. Seyfried's got a bit of daylight at the end of the tunnel as they come around the final corner. He puts the power down. Now into the right-hander at turn 1. Down into the approach as Breitenbach could have looked up the inside of Dombos for second position and got close on the braking zone. As he goes up the inside into turn 3, can't get past the 414, who narrowly keeps it planted in front. As there's been a change with Lukaszewski getting past Schumacher for P6. And now it looks to be that Laurens Seyfried still has a lead of around 3 tenths of a second. It could be further expanded, but with the way that both Dombos and Florian Breitenbach are still trying to keep chase, they're losing out. The pendulum swung in the favour of the 439 from Aris competition. As, well, that was very sideways. Bit of a mistake there from Dombos, who loses out. Second position. Looks to have put the power down a bit too early. Lost the back end going through turn 2. And Florian Breitenbach went, thank you very much, I'll have that back off you. So we have just over a minute of this race remaining, with now Florian Breitenbach trying to correct the tail snap happening on the back end of the 405 going through the left-hander on the approach to the Schumacher chicane. So trying to keep on level pegging with Laurens Seyfried. But the gap was just over 5.5 tenths. It was 0.571 of a second between the 439 and the 405 in terms of the overall positioning of the field. As there's a little bit more drama happening at the back part of the field. And with the pace that he's been setting at the moment, they go into the Schumacher chicane with about 12 seconds on the clock remaining. So this is going to be very, very tight. And that was with about 4 seconds on the clock remaining. Laurens Seyfried across the stripe. So he's now on to the penultimate lap of this race. So the next time the 439 from Aris competition comes round, it will be the last lap board. And they have dropped Maximilian Dombos to the tune of just over 1.65 seconds between the 414, as there's more malaise happening at the back part of the field. The likes of Lukaszewski, Thomas Schumacher, Mark Bartels, even Andreas Schindler from DD2 Masters is getting in on that bit of action, which is actually quite good to see. But this time around, it was 3 tenths of a second. Laurens Seyfried will get the last lap board, so he takes a quick glance over the right shoulder and powers through turn 1. And then just behind, Oliver Breitenbach is going to try and see if he can join his brother in the top 3, as he's right on the back bumper of Maximilian Dombos as they go through the left-hander at turn 5. But Laurens Seyfried pounced when the opportunity presented itself. Past Florian Breitenbach, as the leaders now trying to make their way through into the left-hander for the final time. Now they go into the approach. Oh, this is going to be close. Seyfried hustles it in front of Florian Breitenbach. It could be a run to the line. No, it's not, because Seyfried keeps in front. A nice little fist pump in the air to know that he got the job done on the flag by 0.119 of a second ahead of Florian Breitenbach, with Breitenbach actually leading the majority of the first part of this race. Maximilian Dombos rounds out the top 3, fending off Florian's brother Oliver by just 0.089 of a second for third position. Bennett Mueller rounds out the top 5 ahead of Mark Bartels, Jan Zamer, who was going to be in the mix for at least a top 3 finish, ending up 7th ahead of Thomas Schumacher, with Andreas Schindler in the 5.15, rounding out the top 9 positions and taking the class win for DD2 Masters. Leonard Posse rounds out the top 10 overall ahead of Karl Lukaszewski, Nico Gnad, Jonas Wolscheid. Silvio Pipahato comes home in 14th and secures 2nd in the DD2 Masters classification. Kai Honner in 15th. Sascha Frankenbusch in the 5.52 takes 3rd in class in DD2 Masters and takes P16 overall. Denis Schalau in the 4.03 was 17th ahead of Philipp Wolfgang, Stefan Grabau, David Haas rounding out the top 20 with Florian Bopp, Martin Berger. Thomas Donsol completes the 23 runners and riders that completed the race, with unfortunately we losing Jan Müller on lap number 4, with Fabio Cittignola unfortunately out with 13 laps left to run. So we now come to our penultimate race of the morning's action. We are running a bit behind schedule here in Kaupen. So the grid as follows for the last race of the day for the Micromax, but also the last race of the season is Alexander Klugel will start on pole position. Montego Maassen will start alongside on the number 13. Lennox Meyer and Maximilian Pilch in the number 76 and number 11 will start on row number 2. We have Niklas Casarino and Tom Reger in the numbers 12 and 88 respectively. That's row 3. Leon Vacula and Semil Bayati in the numbers 50 and 20. That's row 4. And completing the top 10, it's the 18 of Mika Trapp and the 31 of Noah Janssen. Moritz Wolber and David Giroux in the numbers 15 and 27, complete row number 6. And rounding out the 18 strong will be as follows. Marlon Schaufler, Christos Malakos, Matti Klassen, Hugo Göttel, Maxim Becker and Gabriel Hoffmann, hoping to not have a first lap retirement as what happened to the number 95 earlier on today. So they've been on their sighting lap and now the drivers getting themselves steeled and ready for their final race start of the season here in Kaupen. So they'll be making their way along the back straight. Very nicely organised are the 9 rows, 9 rows comprising of 18 drivers here. So Klugel and Maassen are on the front row with Klugel on pole position. So the drivers now getting themselves ready for what's going to be an interesting 9 minutes plus an additional lap race. They go through the Schumacher chicane before hopefully we get their final race of the season underway. First time around, as they're being instructed to slow down as they enter into the tram lines. They go up the rev ranges on the Rotax racing engines. And it looks like we have gone under full racing speed down into turn 2 for the very first time. And there are definitely some drivers going a bit wide coming out of turn number 2. As they go into the left-hander at 3 for the first time. Some drivers dropping down the order, some making up positions. As just keeping an eye on what will happen. We'll get some insight from Max Hayes throughout this race and also the Minimax race very, very shortly after this one. So 8 minutes and 25 plus an additional lap. Leaders starting to make their way through into the flat left. And at the moment, Klugel being hounded by Montego Maassen in the number 13, who's gone a bit wide coming out of the final corner, but manages to keep in front of Maximilian Pilch, who is now up into P3. As Lennox Meyer in the number 76, as there's going to be another try as Pilch goes up the inside of Maassen. And Maassen runs wide. That allows Casarino in the number 12 to go past 2. So Montego Maassen dropping a handful of places. Looks to be, I think by my reckoning, probably P4, P5 onto the on the second lap of the race. So Alexander Klugel will not have an easier run this time, I feel. Well, actually, I've been thrown a curveball by the number 80 because the number 80 is trying to get away, and there is an absolute hornet's nest behind, being led by Maximilian Pilch in the number 11 with the number 13 of Montego Maassen just behind. Then you got quite a few other drivers. So Pilch is ahead of Casarino in the number 12, who is running the back bumper, going up the inside in to take second position. As there's more bumping and boring and barging, Montego Maassen actually looks to be outside of the top 5 as they go through turn 3. As drivers, I mean, the slightest amount of rainfall that we had earlier on really has dissipated quite significantly to the point where the drivers are going to go full throttle. So Max, ein Überblick von dir über die erste Teil dieses Rennens, mein Freund.
Ja, das Rennen war im Moment schon sehr spannend. Der Montego ist leider ein bisschen zurückgefallen. Er hat mir auch gesagt, dass es halt im Regen besser ist wie im Trockenen. Und ich denke, dass er probiert, das Beste draus zu machen. Jetzt hat sich hier schon eine Dreiergruppe gebildet und mal gucken, was jetzt noch kommt.
Ja, genau. So we go back onto the race itself, and the top three separated by just over 5.5 tenths. Montego Massa now down into 6th position on the last the last time they crossed the start-finish line, but with Alexander Klugel still leading from Niklas Casarino, who's overtaken Maximilian Pilsch on the previous lap for 2nd place. And you can just see the amount of commitment from these youngsters. You think that the juniors and the seniors and the DD2s and the DD2 Masters can throw a few surprises. Well, the micros and the minis can do so as well. But because the top three are even closer. And now Casarino senses blood in the water, could feel that there might be an opportunity at going at Alexander Klugel for the lead of the race. So it's Klugel, Casarino, Pilsch, Reja ahead of Mika Trapp. Montego Massa still sitting in 6th place as Maximilian Pilsch returns the favour on Niklas Casarino for 2nd position and makes the move stick by the exit of turn number 3 as they go into the left sweeping corner at turn 4. As it's literally line astern between 2nd and 3rd at the minute. So some great racecraft from the likes of Casarino and Pilsch at the minute. And there's definitely some cheers on the left-hand side of the commentary position. Someone's got a favourite driver out there because that person's definitely getting a lot of cheers. So the top three come across the line. Klugel has extended the lead whilst Casarino, who's in 3rd behind Pilsch, they've dropped down to about, Pilsch was about 0.4 of a second off of Klugel on that last lap. And then a further 2 or so tenths of a second back to Casarino in P3. Mika Trapp and Tom Reja trying to battle their way up the order. They're both sitting in P4 and P5 respectively. Montego Massa still holding station in P6 ahead of Lennox Meyer, Semil Bayati and Noel Janssen rounding out the top 10, completing the running order so far. It looks to be we've got one retirement, unfortunately, which is Leon Facula in the number 50, whose race ended on lap number 3. So we've got 17 drivers still competing. So from 11th onwards, it's Marlon Schaufler, David Chiruk, Matti Klassen, Hugo Göttel, Maxim Becker and Gabriel Hoffmann. As again, Casarino returns the favour in the direction of Maximilian Pilsch for 2nd place through the exit of turn 3. And 17th and last but by certainly no means least, Christos Malakos in the number 44. So Casarino now getting a bit of an advantage, a little bit of daylight there with just 3 minutes remaining. And it's definitely getting heated at the front because Casarino, again, is right on the back bumper of Klugel. Klugel is not being allowed to breathe at the moment. As they go across the start-finish line between 1st and 2nd, it was 3.5 tenths. It's now 0.16. As Casarino's going for it. He's going towards the inside line onto turn 2. Has to go back single file, unfortunately. I think he looked at the gap and went, I don't know if I'm going to make it. I could do a school of send, but I'm not going to chance it. Casarino, I think, just wants to wait, but Casarino has got to make the decision very, very quickly because there's only 2 minutes and 15 seconds plus an additional lap of this race as they come up their way down the main back straightaway as Casarino is about a cart length behind Alexander Klugel. So Klugel, and now here comes Pilsch in the number 11. So line astern through the Schumacher chicane come the 3 leaders, and again Casarino getting closer and closer to Klugel. And he's going for the lead. He's gone side by side with the number 80. Is he going to get the brakes on nicely into turn 2? No. Absolutely dynamite action for the top 3 as Maximilian Pilch kicks up some standing water on the exit of the outside of turn number 3. And Casarino, I think he tried to go for it. I think if he'd have had that extra kilometre an hour or two going up the inside of Klugel going into turn 1, he could have very much had him. But we still have time with this race. There is still time again as Casarino again on the back straightaway is catching up with Klugel. So 1 minute and 5 seconds plus an additional lap remaining. Alexander Klugel definitely in the hot seat. He's definitely doing a great job as Casarino now looks to be about the same distance. It was 0.122 last time. 0.165. He's trying to go for it, but I don't know if there's enough in the tank. The number 12 is fast running out of time, and if he squanders an opportunity and makes a mistake, that's going to allow the number 11 of Maximilian Pilch to get in the window of opportunity to take second position. But Alexander Klugel from lights out, as we've got 30 seconds left on the clock, they're going to come down the back straight away. Time's fast running out. So 20 seconds left on the clock. The 3 leaders come through. The left-hander heading onto the approach onto the Schumacher chicane. Klugel, Casarino, Pilch. That's the top 3. A little bit further back is Mika Trapp just ahead of Tom Hager as Casarino takes a look over the left shoulder to see where Pilch is to give him an idea of where he can try and go for it. He looks a bit closer as Pilch goes up the inside of Casarino through turn 2. The pair go side by side on the exit. They nearly bang wheels. And Casarino went for it, couldn't go for it, had to slot back into position, and Pilch went, I'm going to have that corner right now, and I'm going to have that position 2 off of you as well. But Casarino has got the remainder of this lap, plus an additional one to try and see if he can still salvage something in the form of P2 as Alexander Klugel is corners away from starting the penultimate lap of the season in the lead of this race. So last lap board being shown as Pilch goes ultra defensive on Casarino going through into turn 1 for the final time, but Casarino right side by side, it could be a nail-biting moment heading into turn 2. Casarino doesn't make the move. He slots in behind Pilch. So Pilch at the moment has got a bit of advantage over the number 12. But Casarino is going to have to try and do something. If he gets a good run through the Schumacher chicane on the final lap, he could do something very, very spectacular around the final left-hander. So the leader's coming down the back straight for the final time. Klugel has got definite advantage here as Casarino trying to do his best to keep up with Pilch, but Pilch is absolutely flying towards Klugel. They come round the final corner. It's going to be a close finish, but Alexander Klugel wins. Maximilian Pilch takes second. Niklas Casarino takes third, and they were separated by 0.369 of a second. And that's brilliant. Alexander Klugel and Maximilian Pilch, great sportsmanship. Well driven, boys. So the finishing order for the final race for RMC Clubsport in the Micromax class goes to Alexander Klugel as your victor here early this afternoon by just 0.227 of a second ahead of Maximilian Pilch, who is celebrating that he kept Niklas Casarino at bay for second position by just 0.142 of a second. Casarino, definitely that is a sign of things to come from the youngster in the number 12. Finishes ahead of Mika Trapp and Tom Hager in the numbers 18 and 88. Montego Massen and Lennox Meyer round out the top 7 ahead of Semel Bayati, Moritz Wolber and Noah Janssen rounding out the top 10. Hugo Gürtel in 11th. David Chiruk in the 27th was 12th ahead of Matti Klassen. Mahon Schäufler, Christos Malakos, Gabriel Hoffmann and Maxim Becker rounding out the 17 that completed the race with, unfortunately, we lost Leon Vacula just with a cut while he kept on circulating. to finish 18th and finished 2 laps off of the eventual victor. So denn Max, was für ein Wertungslauf für die Ende der Saison, mein Freund.
Ja, ich fand es sehr gut. Der Niklas hätte vielleicht können am Anfang noch beim Alexander vielleicht mal reinstechen, weil er hätte vielleicht 3-4 Mal die Chance dazu gehabt und hätte vielleicht auch können noch Erster werden. Aber ich fand das Rennen sehr gut. Auch der Maximilian Pilch hat sich nochmal sehr gut verteidigt und ja.
Und auch, wir müssen ein bisschen über Niklas Casarino ein bisschen sprechen. Er war total voll Attack die ganze Zeit und dann die Fehler mit vielleicht 1 oder 2 Runden dieses Wertungslauf zu laufen. Denkst du, dass er könnte es vielleicht den Sieg von Alexander Klügel vielleicht schaffen?
Ja, also ich glaube auch, dass es von der Nervosität einfach nicht ging und er hätte natürlich bestimmt auch können gewinnen, wenn er halt die eine Lücke da gerade in der 180-Grad-Kurve gehabt hätte, hätte er vielleicht können reinstechen und dann hätten sich die beide vielleicht noch gegenseitig ein bisschen gekämpft und so, aber ja, so ist es jetzt halt und kann man nichts machen.
Natürlich ist das Rennsport. So we come to our last race of the, effectively the morning's action. Well, I'm going to say the morning stroke afternoon's action because the time now locally here in Germany is 33 minutes past 1 in the afternoon. So we're just waiting to get our final race underway very, very shortly, which will be the last race of the Minimax season. So to get us to the halfway stage of the final race weekend of the 2019 Rotax Max Challenge Club Sport here in Kaupen, it is Minimax. And a big thank you to Max Heiss for helping me out in the commentary box, giving his insight. We'll hear from him during the race and obviously just after before we go to the lunch break. But your final race of the season, the grid is as follows. Austin Lee in the 114 will start on pole position, ahead of Lewis Reichel in the 177. Miko Mikov and Jonas Ungnada in the 102 and the 158 ran out the top 2 rows, ahead of Kajus Rutsavicius and David Schnell in the 104. Lewis Detling, Julian Jungheim and Leandro Fischer will complete the 9 strong for this race. And again with this one, it will be 9 minutes plus an additional lap. And in the earlier race, David Schnell was trying to get himself into the top 4 and ended up down outside of the top 5 as the majority of the field, apart from 3 little stragglers at the back part, have now got themselves... they're starting to weave. Now, for those on the live stream at home wondering why some drivers do that, first of all, they're doing 2 things. Getting themselves ready for the start, Second of all, tyre temperature is another key point, and Max has just nodded in agreement. And they'll need, because whilst they're going at this slow pace, the tyres will lose a little bit of heat on the contact patches on the circuit. So they'll start weaving a little bit more towards the end of the formation lap before they get onto the rolling start to get themselves ready, get themselves mentally prepared for the onslaught that is about to come. Even though we've got 9 competitors in this race, I've still got a feeling it's going to be providing a lot of action, as they are pretty much 2 by 2, side by side, all 9 competitors. So Lee from Heichel, Mikov, Ungnada, Rutzevicius, Schnell, Dettling, Jungheim and Fischer. That is the starting order of this race. So 9 minutes set on the clock. They're keeping us waiting, aren't they? Let's see what transpires. Will Austin Lee do the double here in Kaupen? We'll find out, because they're just coming through the Schumacher chicane. And then round the final left-hander, putting them onto the main straight. So we go into the tram lines. Do we go green? First time out. Looks like we're at full racing speed, as Austin Lee now quickly coming under pressure. That could be maybe from Mikov, I think, but Austin Lee already asserts his dominance on the field, but as nearly gets caught out by Mikov, I think, going through turn 3, as Austin Lee's now lost the lead. He's lost the lead through turn number 4. So Austin Lee down into second place. And just keeping an eye on where... so when they start coming through... And in the lead, it's Louis Reichel that is currently leading the field at the moment, and has got a bit of a gap between the back bumper of his car and also the front bumper of Austin Lee. And that is now just under 0.7 of a second. And Rutzevicius is right on the back bumper now of the 114. Well, about 2 kart lengths there of behind. So Ungnada, Mikov and Schnell round out the top 6. Jungheim up into 7th. Leandro Fischer up into 8th place, as Louis Dettling rounds out the 9 strong that are running their way around the circuit here at Kerpen. As it's a little bit sideways correction from Louis Reichel in the 177, who continues to lead the race. In second place, it is still Austin Lee, with Rutzevicius in the 109 just behind. And then a little bit further back, we've got David Schnell closing on the back bumper of Jonas Ungnada just then. And looks to be that he tried to make the move, but Ungnada made the switchback happen. And so he got back up into P5. So Heichel continues to lead from Austin Lee. Kajus Rudzevicius still in third position, still keeping the 114. Very, very honest indeed. As they bump their way through the curves. So Max, noch ein bisschen Gespräch mit dir. Eine gute Start für Louis Reichel. Und wir haben noch eine Überholmanöver innerseits bei Austin Lee nach Kurve 2. Aber Reichel hat ein bisschen mehr Pace dieses Rennen, denkst du?
Ja, ich bin ja mit dem Louis schon letzte Woche hier gefahren bei dem Cup Memorial. Und da war der Louis eigentlich genauso schnell wie ich. Konnte zwar beide Rennen gewinnen, aber also einmal im Trockenen und einmal im Regen und dann nochmal im Regen. Und er war aber auch im Trockenen sehr, sehr gut, so fast genug wie ich. Es war fast gar kein Abstand. Und deswegen denke ich schon, Austin ist im Regen ein bisschen besser wie im Trockenen. Deswegen denke ich jetzt, dass es mal Louis gewinnen wird.
Aber im Moment ist es ein bisschen mehr trocken, nicht so nass, ne?
Ja, deswegen, also mal gucken, der Austin kann sich jetzt ja gerade gut ransetzen, auch durch den Windschatten oder Linie angucken. Und ja, mal gucken, was jetzt rauskommt.
Okay, so just having a bit of a... Now, we've had a 3-second penalty issued, unfortunately, to Leandro Fischer. So a 3-second penalty for being outside of the tram lines on the rolling start, which took place around about 4 minutes to go. But at the front of the field, it is still Lewis Heichel who leads. Last time around, it was about 0.4 of a second, but it looks like Austin Lee has definitely picked up the pace and is looking for that double victory. And just behind, you've got Mikko Mikov, I think is just behind Hudsavicius as they go across the line. As Mikov sends it up the inside of Hudsavicius into turn 1 and actually takes the inside line into turn 2 as Austin Lee was just over 0.3 of a second as the positions change again for third. And it looks like that Hudsavicius keeps ahead of Mikov going through the other side of the circuit as Austin Lee right on the back bumper, Lewis Heichel on the 177 as they come down the back straight. We are now past half-time on the counter, and Austin Lee looking really, really planted now, coming through the left-hander on the approach to the Schumacher S's, Schumacher chicane, round the final corner. Looks like Heichel has a good bit of pace, but then Austin Lee just seems to get the power down pretty quickly coming out of that final corner. So the track's coming to him a bit more. And in terms of the lap times, well, Heichel did a 50.830. Austin Lee did a 50.892. So they're on comparative pace. And the fastest lap of the race is actually not of either one of the top three, with Hudsavicius in third place on the 109. It's the driver in fourth, the 102 of Mikko Mikov. 50.209, that's incredible pace, especially as it's going to be the final one of their season. So they want to have some sort of bragging rights going into the winter. But Austin Lee is chomping at the bits. He's still trying to make inroads onto Lewis Heichel, Hudsavicius, Mikov, Ungnada. That rounds out the top 5 at the minute. David Schnell in 6th place, ahead of Louis Detling. Julian Jungheim in 8th place, ahead of Leandro Fischer, who rounds out the 9 drivers still circulating here. So I've just been keeping an eye still on positions when it comes to the driving styles of these two different drivers. Heichel seems a little bit more settled, where Austin Lee seems to be a bit more aggressive, especially bumping through the curbs on the Schumacher chicane. So they'll come through the flat left now. They'll go into the curbs, and I can just see that out of the Schumacher chicane, Lewis just seems a little bit more planted. So Heichel leads again. The gap really hasn't changed as we go into the final 2 minutes, plus 1 additional lap. It was 0.2 of a second. It's now grown to 0.3. But Austin Lee still trying to keep Lewis Heichel very, very honest. The same could be said of Mikov trying to do the same with Hudsavicius. As we go into the last 1 minute and 40, plus an additional lap. Looks like there's a great battle there. That is between Detling and Jungheim for 7th place on the road, as the leaders make their way through the left-hander to come around to complete lap number 9. So we've got just under 90 seconds remaining. Austin Lee not having any answer for Lewis Heichel at the minute. However, anything can happen in motorsport. Rubbing is racing, but karting is a non-contact sport. Well, that's what they say. But Austin Lee just hasn't got an answer. I've just been looking at the lap times. He was 7/100ths off of the pace that Lewis Heichel did on that last lap alone. But Austin Lee has actually set a better lap time in terms of what he's done during the race on his best lap time of a 50.482. But he's 7/100ths of a second off of Lewis Heichel. So Heichel really now just trying to start pulling away from Austin Lee. And at the moment, along with that, with 33 seconds on the clock, so they cross the line, 30 seconds on the clock exactly. So this is the penultimate lap of the race and the season. So Heichel has the lead of nearly half a second over Austin Lee, going on to Austin Lee not going to get the double here today in Kerpen, but he's going to have two. He'll have placed no lower than second and no higher than first here today. As the timer has now expired, it's now on to the last couple of corners before we go on to the final lap of the morning's action here at Kerpen. So, final lap board being shown first to Louis Heichel, then Austin Lee, then Mikko Mikov. Rudsevicius a little bit lonely now in fourth place, about 1.6 seconds behind Mikko Mikov. So Austin Lee, if he's going to try and do something, he's only got probably about half a lap or so left to do it. However, as they say, it isn't over until the fat lady sings when you term it in terms of operatics. But this time around, it's not going to be Austin Lee, because what a great drive from Louis Heichel as he comes through the Schumacher chicane for the final time, round the left-hander, and now will take the checkered flag, 2 hands off the wheel, celebrating in fine style. But still a great result nevertheless for Austin Lee. Mikko in second position, Mikko Mikov in P3 at the end of it all, with Kazimierz Rudzevicius rounding out the top 4 positions. And here's 3 more that come through, and that's 6th, 7th and 8th. As Jonas Ungnada takes 5th position. Louis Detling, 6th place ahead of David Schnell. Julian Jungheim, and I think we're just waiting. Here he comes. Leandro Fischer rounds out the 9 strong. All 9 competitors complete the race. So there we go. Austin Lee finishes no lower than second. But this time in first place, it's Louis Heichel on the 177, ahead of Austin Lee by 0.345 of a second. Mikko Mikov in P3, ahead of Kazimierz Rudzevicius. Jonas Ungnada rounding out the top 5 with Louis Detling, David Schnell, Julian Jungheim and Leandro Fischer, completing the 9-strong grid. So bevor der Mittagspause, das war ein guter Highlight für die Saison, aber ein guter Rennen für die beiden Heichel und Austin Lee. Was denkst du über die ganze Saison, Max?
Ja, also für die beiden, zum Beispiel Louis hat jetzt in den beiden Rennen einfach gut gekämpft und ja, am Ende hat er halt gewonnen. Und die Saison, also jetzt für mich, die Saison war ganz gut. Jetzt bin ich ja auch Meister und ja, besser ging es jetzt einfach nicht.
Okay, vielen Dank für deine Hilfe heute und viel Erfolg für die Zukunft, und wir sehen uns natürlich ein bisschen später. So that's it. Das ist alles für heute Morgen. Jetzt kommt der Mittagspause und vielleicht ein bisschen später als normale bei die Zeitplan heute, meine Damen und Herren. So hoffentlich, wir werden euch eine Nachricht geben, wenn es kommt mit die Siegerung bei der Mikro- und die Mini-Klasse. Danke sehr. So for those on the live stream, that's it. That's the now the lunch break here at Kerpen, just about 35 minutes from Cologne Bonn Airport. And we'll be back after the lunch break, and hopefully we'll have our podiums for the Micro and the Minimax classes here at the RMC Club Sport finale here in Kerpen.